You ever get that strange feeling before something big happens? Not fear, not excitement, just that eerie calm. Like the world's holding its breath, and you're standing right in the middle of it. Everything looks the same. The same room, the same air, the same silence. But deep down, you know it's not. Something's moving. Something's close. And it's not days away, not weeks. It's hours. People don't realize how fast life can change. One phone call, one message, one moment. And suddenly everything you thought was settled flips upside down. The funny part is, you can feel it before it happens. That quiet restlessness that won't let you sit still. That invisible pressure pressing on your chest like a countdown you can't see. It's not anxiety. It's alignment. It's the moment right before the shift, when the old world starts cracking to make room for the new one. You can always feel it before it happens. That strange heaviness in the air, that invisible electricity crawling under your skin. It's not paranoia, it's presence. The kind that makes your senses sharpen without reason, your thoughts slow down, your breathing shift. The air doesn't smell different, but it feels different. Like time itself just tilted, and you're standing in the middle of something you can't yet see. Most people ignore that feeling. They rush through it, drown it out with noise, call it nerves or exhaustion. But deep down, you know better. You know that every major change, every turning point, comes with a warning whispered by the universe before it strikes. It's almost cruel how quiet it is. You expect chaos to announce change. Thunder, explosions. A dramatic moment you can point to and say, that's when it started. But no. The big things slip in softly, like a shadow moving behind you. By the time you notice, it's already here. The air doesn't just shift for no reason. That tension building inside you isn't random. It's a signal. It's the soundless knock of destiny saying, get ready. You see, people wait for signs with their eyes, but the real signs are always felt first. That's the trap, thinking you'll see it coming. You won't. You'll feel it. You'll wake up and something will feel off. Your thoughts will be quieter, but heavier. You'll start remembering things you thought you were over, seeing patterns you didn't notice before. That's how life warns you. Not with lightning bolts, but with intuition. A pressure you can't explain, a knowing you can't ignore. And that's when it happens. The shift. Not the event itself, but the preparation for it. The energy around you starts tightening, rearranging. People suddenly drift away. Conversations end abruptly. Situations that once felt stable start to shake. You think you're losing control, but really, control is what's being taken away because it's no longer needed. You don't need control when you're about to be carried. The air shifts because the weight of what's coming is starting to take form. And only those who are awake enough to feel it can catch it before it passes. The world teaches you to wait for proof before you believe something. But energy doesn't work like that. It warns you before the evidence arrives. That's why the air feels different. It's carrying something unseen, something coming closer with every heartbeat. The ones who can sense it aren't crazy. They're just tuned in. They know that change announces itself quietly to the prepared and violently to the unaware. You can't afford to sleep through the shift, so you have to listen. Not to words, not to people, but to the silence between moments. The stillness where truth hides. That's where the clues are. That's where destiny speaks. It's subtle. A hesitation in your step, a random thought that feels too heavy to ignore. A gut feeling that whispers, something's near. That's not coincidence. That's communication. The unseen world doesn't talk with sound. It talks with sensation. The air shifts because it's making room for what's about to arrive. You ever notice how animals sense storms before humans do? Birds fly lower, dogs hide, the forest goes silent. They don't need weather forecasts. They can feel the pressure change. Humans lost that instinct. We traded it for distractions, notifications, logic. But deep inside, that ability's still there. When you strip away the noise, when you sit in silence long enough, you start to feel it again. You start noticing how the atmosphere bends before big moments, how your body reacts before your mind catches up. That's how you stay ready, not by waiting for signs, but by feeling the air. Sometimes that shift feels uncomfortable. It's supposed to. Pressure always precedes movement. If the air feels tense, it's because it's charged. Something's building, waiting for release. You think it's anxiety, but it's anticipation. You're standing on the edge of an unseen breakthrough, and your spirit knows it before your mind accepts it. You can't see the wave, but you can feel the pull. That's how close it is. That's why awareness is everything. Most people miss their moment because they dismiss that feeling as nothing. They go back to scrolling, complaining, distracting themselves from the tension. But the ones who recognize it, who stop and pay attention, they prepare. They don't panic, they position. They quiet their minds, they steady their breathing, they wait, because they know the air doesn't shift for no reason. When it does, it means the old reality is cracking and the new one is seconds away. And the thing about that moment, it doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't care if you're afraid. It only cares if you're awake enough to notice it. Because once the air changes, there's no going back. The shift begins, the countdown starts, and whatever's meant to arrive is already on its way. You can't stop it. You can only feel it coming. It's strange how the biggest moments in life rarely look big when they begin. They don't come with a grand announcement. No fireworks, no spotlight. They sneak in quietly, like a whisper in a crowded room. You go about your day, lost in routine, thinking it's just another ordinary stretch of hours. But somewhere, behind the scenes, something shifts. A door that was locked starts to creak open. A situation that made no sense starts aligning piece by piece. And you don't even notice it at first, because you're too busy surviving. But that's the trick. The big moments are designed to disguise themselves as ordinary days, to test who's still paying attention when life goes silent. It's funny how people always expect the miracle to come wrapped in glitter. But that's not how it works. The universe hides it, tucks it inside chaos, confusion, sometimes even pain, because only the ones with real faith will still look for light in that mess. Only they will see the signs when everyone else is too tired to care. That's what makes it special. It's not given to everyone. It's revealed only to those who stayed alert through the storm. Those who didn't quit when the silence got too loud. You think it's random that your plans fell apart. You think the delay, the rejection, the loss, it all meant you failed. But what if it was timing? What if every closed door was part of the rearrangement? What if the reason everything slowed down was because something was quietly being built for you? Something that had to happen at the right hour. Maybe that's why things felt heavy lately. Maybe that's why nothing made sense. Because sometimes the preparation feels like punishment when you don't know what's coming next. You start noticing the little details. A conversation that feels too perfect to be coincidence. A message that arrives at the exact moment you were about to give up. A stranger who says something that hits deeper than it should. It's almost eerie how aligned it all seems. You look around and wonder, is this real? Is something actually happening? And it is. You're standing on the edge of a shift you didn't see coming. It's not loud, but it's real. It's building under the surface, quiet but powerful, like an earthquake preparing to move the ground beneath you. You can sense it in people too. Some start leaving. Others return out of nowhere. You lose things you thought you couldn't live without, and suddenly, you don't even miss them. That's not accident. That's clearing. Life removes what can't come with you before it delivers what's meant for you. The alignment isn't always gentle. Sometimes it hurts. But that pain, that's proof that something's being rearranged for your good. The worst part is always right before it happens. The confusion, the fatigue, the isolation. They're all signs that the chapter's ending and a new one's seconds away. It's easy to miss it if you're not still enough to feel it. Everyone's looking for signs in the sky, but the real signs are internal. You'll feel your energy change. Things that once triggered you won't anymore. Conversations you used to crave will bore you. You'll crave peace more than validation. That's how you know the shift's close. When you stop chasing things that were never meant to stay. Because something bigger is trying to make space. You'll start to realize that the silence isn't a punishment. It's preparation. The pause isn't rejection. It's alignment. Every delay is strategic. Every no is protection. Every quiet hour is loaded with purpose. You can't see it, but it's moving. It's forming. The breakthrough doesn't start when it arrives. It starts when everything slows down. That's the moment most people give up, thinking nothing's happening. When in truth, that's when everything begins. You've been waiting for proof, but the proof will only come as after the shift. That's how it's designed. Faith is the currency. You either believe before you see it, or you lose it right before it's about to appear. That's why things get harder before they get better, because your belief is being weighed, tested, refined. It's almost like life wants to see if you'll still believe when it looks like nothing's left to believe in. And if you do, if you can hold that belief through the silence, that's when it happens. The energy starts to move differently. The conversations shift. The atmosphere feels charged again. Random opportunities start to line up like dominoes, one after another, all falling perfectly into place. You can feel the acceleration, the speed picking up. That's how you know it's here. What you were waiting for, what you prayed for, what you doubted would ever come. It starts to form right in front of you, quietly, naturally, almost effortlessly. It's not forced. It's flowing. And in that moment, you'll understand why the wait was so long, why the silence was necessary, why the isolation had to happen. Because everything that felt like loss was actually protection. Everything that fell apart was making space. Everything that delayed was aligning. It wasn't punishment. It was timing. The kind that doesn't miss. The kind that hits all at once and makes you realize it had to happen exactly like this. The kind that reminds you that nothing is ever late when it's divinely timed. You can feel it in the air when something's about to change. It's not visible, but it's there. In the way your body tenses for no reason. The way your thoughts grow louder, even when the world is quiet. It's like the universe has been whispering your name all week, trying to tell you that something's shifting behind the curtain. You don't see it yet, but you feel it. That strange energy that makes your heart race for no reason. The kind of feeling that keeps you up at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if maybe, just maybe, something's finally about to move. That's not imagination. That's awareness. You're sensing the vibration of something coming closer. It's funny, isn't it? How life always gives a warning before it delivers a breakthrough, but not the kind of warning people expect. No flashing lights, no loud alarms. It's subtle. It comes through restlessness, through sudden isolation, through a deep feeling that the people around you no longer understand you. That's the first clue that the shift has already started. The version of you that fit perfectly in your old world can't survive in what's next. So it starts to break off quietly. The laughter changes, the habits fade, the interests shift, the faces disappear. And in that uncomfortable silence between endings and beginnings, you start to feel it, the pull of something new. You might even think you're losing control, but that's part of it. Growth always feels like destruction before it feels like freedom. You don't outgrow people, places, and habits gently. It happens violently, unexpectedly, and most times painfully. Because when you're being prepared for something big, you can't take old weight into new levels. The universe won't allow it. That's why the people you thought would always be there start to distance themselves. That's why the plans you made start falling apart. It's not punishment. It's redirection. The system is rearranging your environment to match where you're about to go, not where you've been. And that's the hard part, the not knowing, the silence, the waiting. You start wondering if you did something wrong, if maybe you missed your moment. But what if the waiting isn't delay at all? What if it's incubation? What if the silence is the space where destiny breathes before it speaks? You've been conditioned to think that movement equals progress, but sometimes stillness is where the real shift happens. The seed doesn't make noise when it breaks the ground. The butterfly doesn't shout when it leaves the cocoon. The world doesn't see your preparation, and it's not supposed to. You're not meant to announce your rise. You're meant to live it. There's always a calm before the storm, but people mistake that calm for emptiness. They start panicking, trying to fix things that aren't broken, chasing noise because silence scares them. But that silence, it's sacred. It's where everything is aligning. You don't need to force the process. You just need to stay aware. When things feel uncertain, it's usually because they're about to become clear. When you feel alone, it's because not everyone can go where you're headed. When you feel disconnected, it's because you're reconnecting with something higher. That disconnection is protection in disguise. Every great shift requires a breaking point. You'll hit a moment where you're tired, where you feel like nothing's working, where you start to think maybe it's never going to happen. That's the test. That's where most people stop, right before the breakthrough cracks open, because they confuse exhaustion with failure. But the truth is, that breaking point is proof that you're close. The pressure builds before it releases. It always does. When you feel like you can't take one more step, that's the exact moment you're supposed to push through one more hour, one more decision, one more breath. Because that's the hour everything starts to turn. You'll start noticing how things that once drained you no longer have power over you. You'll stop explaining yourself. You'll stop chasing what left. You'll stop waiting for validation. And that's when you know the shift is real. Because peace replaces fear. Clarity replaces confusion. The noise fades, and your focus sharpens. That's not just maturity. That's alignment. That's you stepping into what you were built for. You're no longer trying to fit in where you were meant to outgrow. You're not begging for things that should flow naturally. You've finally stopped hiding from what's next. And that's when it happens. Not with an explosion, but with alignment. The opportunities start showing up again, this time differently. The doors that once rejected you suddenly open like they were waiting for your knock. The people you meet feel familiar, like they were written into your story from the start. The things you prayed for begin to find their way to you. Not because you chased them, but because you finally became the version of yourself who's ready for them. That's the twist most people don't understand. It's never about getting what you want. It's about becoming who's meant to receive it. You realize that nothing was wasted. Not the silence. Not the pain. Not the loneliness. Every delay, every heartbreak, every no, it was shaping you. It had to harden your skin, sharpen your vision, quiet your mind. Because what's coming next doesn't just require excitement, it requires endurance. You can't fumble what's divine. That's why it took this long. It wasn't punishment. It was calibration. It was timing learning to match readiness. It was destiny waiting for you to grow into your promise. And now, you're close. Hours away, maybe minutes. The signs are everywhere if you're paying attention. The tension in the air, the synchronicities, the way your spirit feels restless again. That's not coincidence. That's alignment knocking. You know what's strange about change? It doesn't ask for your permission. It just walks in, uninvited, and starts moving things around. One moment you think you know how your life looks, and the next, it's like someone rearranged the entire room while you blinked. People leave, plans collapse, and comfort disappears. That's the part no one tells you. Transformation doesn't come wrapped in peace. It comes disguised as chaos. It's not a calm sunrise. It's a thunderstorm that tears everything apart, just so you can see what was really standing strong underneath. You start realizing how fragile everything you depended on really was, how quickly things shift when they're not meant to stay. And you fight it. Of course you do. Everyone fights it. Because humans cling to familiarity like it's safety, even when it's the very thing keeping them small. You tell yourself, maybe it'll go back to normal. But deep down, you already know normal is gone. The life you knew isn't ending because of punishment. It's ending because you've outgrown it. The doors closing around you aren't traps. They're signals. The universe doesn't take away stability without reason. It removes what you've built on weak foundations, so you can rebuild with strength this time. It's uncomfortable. You'll feel lost, maybe even betrayed by life itself. You'll start asking questions. Why me? Why now? What did I do wrong? But those questions don't get answered because they're the wrong ones. The real question isn't why it's happening, but what it's revealing. Every collapse exposes truth. The people who disappear during your hard seasons show you who was only loyal to your light. The plans that fail show you what was never meant to carry you. The silence that replaces constant noise. That's where you start hearing yourself again. That's where you begin to remember what matters. See, the reason the change feels violent is because you've been fighting the flow. You want comfort and growth at the same time, but those two can't coexist. One has to die for the other to live. You can't become who you're meant to be while clinging to who you used to be. That's why life pushes. It pushes until you stop resisting. It strips away everything that makes you feel safe, until the only thing left is raw truth. And that truth is what sets you free. Freedom doesn't come from stability, it comes from surrender. The moment you stop trying to control what's falling apart is the moment it starts making sense. But here's the cruel beauty of it. You won't see that while it's happening. During the storm, everything looks wrong. You'll think you're breaking, but you're actually bending into shape. You'll think you're losing everything, but you're being positioned for more. Because chaos is just order in disguise. What looks like destruction is usually construction in motion. You can't build something divine on a human timeline. There's precision in the madness and patience in the delay. The problem is, we only see the fire. We don't see what's being purified in it. You'll notice how life starts removing your distractions. Suddenly, things that once excited you feel empty. Conversations that used to entertain you now drain you. You don't relate to the same circles. You don't crave the same validation. That's because your spirit has already moved. It's your body and your mind that are catching up. You're being shifted into new spaces, even when your feet haven't taken a step. That's why everything familiar feels foreign. It's not that you've lost your place. It's that your old environment can no longer contain your next version. There's this quiet breaking point. The night you finally stop pretending you're okay. The night you realize that no one's coming to save you. That's when something flips. That's when the power returns to your hands. Because you stop waiting for permission to move forward. You stop trying to be understood. You stop begging life to be gentle. You understand that the pain wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to wake you up. And once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. You can't unsee the truth that everything you lost was a setup for what's about to rise. People love to talk about blessings, but they don't talk about the surgery that comes before them. The cutting away, the separation, the isolation. You think you're being abandoned, but you're being prepared. You're being emptied, so you can be filled again, properly this time. You can't pour new life into old containers. You can't carry new weight with old wounds. So it all gets stripped. Your comfort, your plans, your illusions. And once you're standing there, raw and emptied, that's when destiny finally has room to land. You'll start to see why it had to be this way. Every no, every loss. Every tear was necessary to push you into a higher version of yourself. Because comfort doesn't make you strong. Pressure does. You can't learn patience without delay. You can't learn trust without uncertainty. And you can't learn strength without breaking first. That's how it works. Life builds warriors through wounds. It teaches you to find peace in storms and purpose in pain. It doesn't reward those who have it easy. It crowns those who survive the fire without losing their soul. And once you stop fighting the change, something strange happens. The same chaos that once scared you starts to excite you. You stop seeing endings as tragedy and start recognizing them as beginnings in disguise. You stop clinging to people and outcomes and start trusting timing. Because you finally understand. Nothing that's truly meant for you will ever need to be forced. What's coming won't compete with what left. It'll make sense. It'll fit. It'll flow. But first, you had to be broken open enough to receive it. There's a strange quiet that comes before everything changes. It's not peaceful. It's tense like a wire pulled too tight. You can feel something in the air. A shift that doesn't make sense yet. People around you keep talking. The world keeps moving. But you know something's about to break. The silence isn't stillness, it's pressure. It's the kind of silence that builds before the storm hits, before the truth explodes, before the breakthrough forces its way through the cracks. Everyone thinks nothing's happening, but that's the trick. The biggest moves always begin in secret. You look around and think life's ignoring you. You've prayed, worked, waited, and nothing seems to move. Every door you knock on stays shut. Every effort feels wasted. But what if that quiet wasn't rejection? What if it was construction? The kind of behind the scenes chaos that builds the stage before the curtain rises. You can't see it because it's not happening in the visible world. It's happening underneath. The foundation's being laid where your eyes can't reach. That's why it feels so still. Because the louder the destiny, the quieter the preparation. Think about it. When something massive is about to launch, it doesn't announce itself. Rockets don't make noise until ignition. Earthquakes don't warn before they tear the ground open. Even dawn doesn't shout, it just appears. The silence isn't absence, it's precision. Everything that's coming toward you is aligning piece by piece. And if it arrived too early, it would crush you. You think you're ready because you're desperate, but desperation isn't readiness. It's hunger. Readiness is deeper. It's when you've stopped forcing. Stop begging. Stop trying to speed up the process. It's when you finally let life unfold without fighting it. You've probably felt that restlessness, that strange pull in your chest that tells you something's near, even though nothing looks different. That's the signal. That's the moment before it all unfolds. You can't rush it, because it's timed perfectly. Every delay, every disappointment, every no you faced was orchestrated to line up this one moment. If even one thing happened out of order, the whole picture would fall apart. That's how detailed destiny is. It doesn't deal in coincidences. It deals in precision. And when it starts, it'll happen fast. That's why the silence before it is so heavy. It's the build-up, the gathering of everything you've endured, compressed into one moment that flips your whole story. You'll look back and realize that nothing was wasted. The heartbreak, the loss, the isolation, they were all ingredients. The universe doesn't waste pain. It recycles it, refines it, reshapes it into power. You're being positioned in such a way that when it happens, it can't be stopped, explained, or undone. But here's the part most people never understand. The silence tests you. It asks who you really are when nothing's happening. Do you still believe when there's no proof? Do you still prepare when the timeline disappears? Most give up in that stage. They confuse the pause for the end. But the silence is a filter. It separates the impatient from the prepared. The ones who make it through are the ones who stay grounded when the noise fades. The ones who know that quiet doesn't mean forgotten. It means chosen. That's the irony. You've been asking for a big moment, and now it's almost here. But it doesn't feel like celebration yet. It feels like pressure. That's because big moves never feel gentle before they land. They come with friction. They demand space. and they rearrange everything in their path. You'll feel tired, stretched, maybe even numb. That's how you know you're close. You're not breaking down, you're being positioned. The tension you feel isn't punishment. It's evidence that the energy is shifting. There's a reason it has to happen like this. If life made noise every time it was about to bless you, everyone would see it coming. But this silence is sacred. It's where the unseen forces align, where things shift that your human eyes can't track. You're standing at the edge of something, and the world looks the same because the change hasn't surfaced yet. It's happening underground, within, around you. It's a buildup too precise to announce. You'll know when it hits. It'll be sudden, but it'll make sense. The calls will come, the doors will open, the opportunities will line up, and you'll think, how did this happen so fast? But it wasn't fast. It's been brewing for years, disguised as waiting. That's what the silence was for. To gather strength, to pull all the right pieces together. You weren't being delayed. You were being aligned. So if everything feels too still right now, don't mistake that quiet for nothingness. That's the sound of something massive loading behind the curtain. The silence before destiny speaks is always the loudest moment you'll ever live through. It's the proof that what's next is bigger than anything that's come before.